Welcome back. This is Politics with Tony. I figured I'd just throw down another episode. I was kind of pouring over some of the notes that I took with the recent events that's been going on here in the country, and decided I think what I'm going to do with the videos, fairly decently short, nothing like my old podcasts that were about an hour to hour and a half long. This one will be, my hope is somewhere around a half hour max. And I want to usually just cover like one of the bigger, the hotter topics that's happening right now. So right now, if you're paying attention to the news cycle, as fun as news cycles can be in election years, right now the big news suddenly out of nowhere is the Woodward tapes. So let's just dive in. Woodward, what the hell happened? A correspondent, a news broadcaster, him and Trump had spoken. Apparently it's 18 hours worth of tapes. They talk for 18 hours. Like, Trump don't even like the media, and he's talking to the media that long. Like, what the hell are you doing, man? Just, no. Personally, I'm like, that's just silly. Why would you do that, Trump? Even that's, you know that the damn media don't like you. But with Trump, it's, I hate the media, but he kind of likes, the attention. I mean, I see that. I kind of understand that. So whatever. Anyway, this was back on February 7th. Okay, this was all about, a lot of it had to do with the coronavirus, things like that. It did come up in the conversations. Well, what was sort of toted out in the news, was most of you heard, was that Trump openly said that he's downplaying the virus. He wanted to downplay the virus. From an outside point of view, you see that and only that, and you go, wow, well, that's just terrible. It probably caused more problems than it solved. I could kind of understand that. I'm not completely against the idea that was a bad move on his part. I do think it may have been probably not the best move. I do understand the move, though. Okay, in the tapes that came out, a lot of the news media outlets are having that part where he talked about how the flu is 5 times worse than the flu. That was sort of one of the things he had stated, even though at the same time he said that it wasn't as bad. It was, we have it under control, all this stuff. You gotta try to get the mindset of February 7th. You remember, this was around impeachment time, by the way. So a lot of this was going on, and so of course Trump's, trying to be public and keep things calm. That was his claim, even in the Woodward tapes. I just want to make sure, that there's no panic being caused by this virus. Not the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Why is that so problematic? Well, the media is trying to say that he downright lied. That's where I'm having a problem, because he didn't. There's no evidence of any sort of lying whatsoever. So let me talk about why I don't think that there's a lie. Sure, he downplayed. He admitted to it. But if you really try to dig into this kind of stuff, now I have notes on a lot of what I'm going to talk about. If you dig into what he did from about, January all the way up till, July, August, he admitted a few times that he was slightly downplaying. It was only, of course, when it was a literal sense of, yes, I'm downplaying, I wanted to downplay, which is basically in the audio. That's where it was like, well, see, but you guys, you like to read into everything else he says, so why are you not complaining about the other things? When he talked to Jim Acosta, it basically admitted he is downplaying this to a slight extent to keep things calm. He said this to Jim Acosta. We all know Jim Acosta, CNN, just a complete moron. I'm sorry, but he is. And he asked the questions, and Trump basically said that we're downplaying. I know obviously that wasn't word for word. I don't have that written down, but he had talked to Jim Acosta and said these things in a briefing. Now here's the parts that I don't understand why these aren't talked about. Okay, so we're talking about February 7th, the interview. I don't have the exact dates, but I can tell you this. In January, it was about mid to end of January, Trump got an intelligence briefing. All of the top Republicans and many top Democrats got the same briefing. Then it wasn't but about 2 weeks later, damn near every Democrat, lawmaker, legislator, executive officer, they all got the brief. We're talking all the way up to Newsom, Whitmer, Cuomo, governors, mayors, things like that. They received the same briefing. Okay, the same briefing that Trump got. So in this Woodward tape, you hear Trump talk about how it's airborne, right? I laugh at that. I mean, I'm sure somebody may have said it could be airborne, but just so we're all clear, the WHO, the World Health Organization, actually only released that the virus is in fact airborne in July. So exactly what was he supposed to do? Let's go back to February 7th. He was saying things like it was airborne. It was like, well, see, he knew. How did he know? Nobody knew. He was going off of what he was being told as far as information. I'm assuming in the brief, this is, just go with this here. I'm assuming in the brief he was actually told that there is a possibility that this is airborne. Well, I mean, what is the big issue with kind of slowly letting that out, like it could be airborne? Sort of a more precautionary thing, but he didn't want to create a panic, so he didn't say that it was this virus is just deadly, it's horrid, but airborne? Yeah, it's airborne, or it could be airborne. That's what I got out of it. Like, no, he probably didn't have to say that, but at the same time, he wasn't lying either. We find out a few months later he was right, it was airborne, or it is airborne, but at that time, when it was mentioned, I mean, we all know how Trump works. It's either the best or the worst for him. He kind of it's one end of the spectrum or the other. There's no middle ground, So of course he just went to the worst case scenario. Airborne, it's deadly, it's horrid. And that's what he tells Woodward. Which, like I said, I don't understand who was going to believe him back then anyway. Like if he'd have told us back in the February it's airborne. Well, at WHO, CDC, they didn't have that same information. So if he'd have said that, and that was released, people would have been like, well, but they don't say it, so, I don't believe you. Well, so you're telling me that Trump should have spoke up on all these things that he either knew or heard or had information on. He should have spoke up, right? But do we all remember what happened in February? Now, let's talk about that, too. Let's make sure that is talked about on 24th of February. Okay, and this was long after Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the damn House, had gotten the same intelligence briefing that Trump got. Okay, the same one. He got the exact same one, or she got the exact same one. Excuse me. And 24th February, she's on the news. Okay, and she's telling people, Chinatown's fine. There's nothing happening here. There's no reason not to come here. We should all come down here and enjoy Chinatown. It's a lovely city. Things happening in China don't affect this place. So while they're complaining that Trump's actions could have saved lives if he'd acted sooner, even though, and we'll talk about this too, Trump was already acting in January, so let's, whatever. But here in February, the end of February, you've got Nancy Pelosi out on the streets telling people, no, there ain't nothing serious, come on down, after getting the same briefing that Trump got. And now she's the one saying that he's just criminal for hiding it. What? Mayor de Blasio was somewhere around the exact same time Pelosi did that. He put out, I think it was a Facebook post, I believe, or Twitter, one of the two, and he had basically said, you should. This weekend is going to be a wonderful weekend. Don't freak out, don't panic, get out, go to these movie theaters, and here's some movie suggestions. He literally was telling people, go to movie theaters. So when you go to a movie theater, you got to do right here, super close to you. Social distancing, they didn't care. But here's the thing, is now they're all complaining that Trump didn't act soon enough. You had all the same information. Stop complaining. Joe Biden. Well, of course, he has something to say. He complained, just absolutely, it's almost criminal. It's just terrible. And what was he doing in February and March? After getting the same briefings. Holding big rallies. Well, Biden-sized rallies, let's just say. But he was holding rallies where people were close. People were staying close and no masks, no nothing. He was doing nothing. He was not helping anyone. He wasn't putting out any information, didn't say a damn thing, waited until Trump acted and then just bitched about it. As a matter of fact, in January, Trump was trying to ban travel from China to the United States. Only China, at the time, because, China, the Chinese virus, is where it came from, it's sort of makes sense a little bit here. He was trying to ban travel so that people coming that may have the virus don't come. And Biden complains, now's not the time for Trump's xenophobia. That doesn't make any sense. How are you going to say that? And then later complain that he didn't act when he was trying to act and you complained. So it's literally at a point now where we're seeing that they just want to complain. That's it. That's all they're doing. I don't like Trump. Trump's bad. I want to win the election. That's all I'm seeing. That is all they're doing. Okay, so I'm gonna skim my notes here real quick. Now here's another thing too. What with the left complaining about how Trump didn't do anything? Can anybody point to me when the media asked them what they would do? Like, sure, there's some Democrats that have come out saying that we could have done this, they could have done that. Fine, we'll go with that. But what I'm saying is there was no generalized plan from the left. They're complaining that Trump's not doing anything, and they have no plan at all. Now, as a reminder, too, we have governors, mayors, things like that. They have complete control over their states and cities. Complete control. They have every capability of controlling what they need to in their city to ensure that their citizens are taken care of. And what were they doing? After getting the briefings that Trump got, nothing. Matter of fact, they were waiting on Trump to tell him to shut down. You could have shut down. You could have done it on your own. Absolutely, you have every right to do it. Every single right. But none of them did. They all bitched that Trump wasn't doing anything. Then when Trump tried to step up and start getting into the states to help them, nah, we don't need your help. That's overreach. It's overreach? Now suddenly it's a bad thing that Trump's trying to help, even though you complain that Trump wasn't doing anything? Most mayors, governors, representatives have said this quietly, that Trump was doing a great job of helping them. He was very, very, he was quick with responses. He was on top of things as far as, hey, we need this, and they would get it. A lot of that stuff happened. So now we're finding out through, certain research that's been coming out that the ventilators weren't a great idea. As a matter of fact, most of the time in a ventilator, you drop as far as, or you increase the chance of dying dramatically. It's 4 times more likely, I think, or something like that. But we all learned that the ventilators actually weren't helping at all. But there was this huge push in the ventilators in the beginning. Everybody remembers this. The New York didn't have enough ventilators, which was ironic because due to the last pandemic, there was stuff moved around through New York. So, of course, New York needed their stuff replenished, and they never did. And who was in charge at the time? Obama and Biden. So let's remember this. Anyway, so then you have all these states complaining that Trump, isn't doing enough. They didn't do anything. And then when Trump tried to do something, they didn't like it. They bitched, they complained. They tell him to stay out of their state, things like that. You got Oregon and California. No, Trump, just stay away. While we burn, you just don't leave us alone. We're going to deal with it. And then tell us that Trump sucks. Like, well, Trump has every capability to help you anyway. He's got it all to help you. Why aren't you just accepting the help? I don't understand. And then you think, like, okay, so some people would say, well, if Trump would have opened up about everything, we could have gotten, like PPE, we could have gotten all that stuff disseminated faster and everybody would have been more protected. Oh, yeah. Except for at the time, most of the PPE what we needed, China had a monopoly on. They were absolutely monopolized that market. It was insanely difficult to get it, and then we were also banning travel because, well, first of all, do we really want material coming from a country that had the virus? Weird. So then you have all these companies here in America that switched. There's some that didn't even make medical supplies, and they made this switch over to have masks and ventilators. And all these people did as much as they could. America came together in a bigger way than I've ever seen. It almost reminded me of September 12th. If y'all think about that, September 12th, 2001. Nobody hated anybody. Every American loved every other American. It was just a together moment. Whenever we were trying to get things stockpiled back up to help out with this virus, that was the most American moment that I saw. It wasn't, consistent around the entire country, but generally speaking, a lot of places were helping. A lot of companies switched and began to assist. It was awesome. It was a great thing to see. But of course, again, with this Trump doing nothing crap, look, I don't understand why this was such a big deal that he downplayed it. Maybe, yes, I will absolutely, you got a fly in here, you saw that? I will absolutely agree that it wasn't the smartest move he made. But what exactly did it hurt? Now, a lot of people said, if he let people die. No, he didn't let people die. He was already acting. In January, he was already acting. He was already pushing money towards programs that were helping research. He was already trying to push for travel bans from China. And then later, he's actually trying to push a European ban. And it didn't work. It didn't work. But he was putting himself in positions to help. He had already appointed, somewhere in, I believe, it was the end of January, he appointed Mike Pence as in charge of the COVID response. He was already doing things to assist, and the left was doing nothing while complaining that Trump was doing nothing. The media had a huge hand in this. The media had a huge hand in this massive mess. The media was saying things that, you know, they were hiding a lot of it. I mean, if you think back around February 7th, the Woodward Tapes, it was a lot to do with the impeachment, which most of us knew was going nowhere, but we had to go through the stupid freaking process anyway. And we did. We got through it. Whatever. But that was the time that things were a little confusing because everybody was focused on impeachment while the virus was slowly coming here, you know. Now let's all think about this too. Not one single American citizen death occurred. Not one single American citizen death occurred before Trump announced the state of emergency. It started happening after that, yes, but not one, okay? And it took him about a month and a half to 2 months to announce the state of emergency. And it was only about a month, really, because the virus had slowly started hitting the states. And March 1st, he backdated it to March 1st, but he only announced it on March 13th. So it was a little bit of a time, sure, about a month and a half, maybe 2 months max. Rewind a bit to H1N1. And I just want to use this as an example. Some of the same people that are trying to crucify Trump for not doing enough, or that he didn't act soon enough. It took him, like I said, a month and a half, 2 months, no deaths at the time. Sorry, I hate this. I'm in the basement, so, you know. Anyway, back then it was April 2009, I believe. I want to say that, but I could be. Yeah, no, it is. It's April 2009, H1N1. Okay? Big. And no, it didn't have like this extreme amount of deaths that you see with COVID. But it did have an extreme amount of cases, and it was a very dangerous virus, and we all knew that. It was kind of obvious. 6 months went by before Obama announced a state of emergency, and by then 1,200 people had died. Actually, it was close to 1,300. And that was in October. So that's, like I said, 6 freaking months. And then they finally did something, and Obama and Biden were praised for that. They were praised for this. Why is it different now? Well, of course it's different. You know, Trump's a Republican, but this is a media problem too. The media controls so much of what you people think, what I think, things like that, or at least they attempt to control what we think. I'm not going to say that they absolutely control what you think, and you know, I would like to go ahead and say I don't think they control what I think. However, I know I make sometimes I go off of what I'm reading, and then later I found out that it was false. So of course that's the other thing, but that's not actually controlling you. That's just controlling the information. It's up to you to actually interpret that information as how the information, or what the information means, and that's the problem. Is they're really good at kind of manipulating that. So of course, you know, I'm assuming you all are going to be okay with me talking about BLM eventually in some of these episodes, and I absolutely will. I have a big problem with that organization. But that is an example of what happened, or what happens in the media, right? They talk about Jacob Blake. When Jacob Blake was killed in Kenosha, that was a big, huge story. I think we're all pretty aware of what happened then. One of the big stories that came out, and I believe it was in the New York Times, I'm not 100%, so don't quote me on that one, but I know that it was a big mainstream media source that came out with a story talking about Jacob Blake and how wonderful of a human being he was, and how just terrible it was that he was shot. You go down like 20 paragraphs. Part of that, I think it was probably part of that newspaper where you had this says continue on page blah 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 blah, and you flip there and you got like 10 more paragraphs to get to it, and then there it is, a paragraph stating that he sexually assaulted the woman. Just so we're all clear, what he did, the woman the house he was at, okay? He went into her house while she was sleeping. There was a child in the bed with her. He went into the bedroom. He pulled her pants. I don't know if she was wearing pants or not, but in any case, however he did it, he digitally forced his fingers inside of her. He forced his fingers inside of her vagina. Pulled them out. This is when she woke up. She noticed it. He pulled them out, smelled his hand, and then said, "You smell like you've been with other men." I don't care if you're married for 20 years and try to do that to your wife. If it's unwarranted, it's still wrong. It is still wrong no matter what. And that's the problem. That happened. But it was just this blurb at the end of the story, you know, and he sexually assaulted this woman. Now, as a reminder, what happened that day was that he had shown up there. I think I'm unclear. I've heard a couple different details as to why he was even there in the first place. The claim was that he was fighting, or that there was a fight he was trying to break up. That's just complete fabrication. I believe, if I'm right, the kids that were in the vehicle that he walked to weren't even his kids. He wasn't supposed to be in that home. He wasn't supposed to be there at all. He wasn't supposed to be taking keys from them, which he did. He was resisting arrest. There's multiple videos of him wrestling these cops, holding one in with a chokehold at one point, getting out of the whole thing, them telling him constantly not to do anything, and he was threatening. I'm going to get my knife. I'm going to get a knife. Went to the vehicle, and sure as hell, the investigation even showed there was a knife on the floorboard where he was reaching to. Now, does that indicate that he had it in his hand and was getting ready to turn around? Did he have it already? Or was it just in the vehicle? We don't. Of course, you don't know. But he's threatening it all the way to the vehicle. Hey, now I watched this post. It was a little bit ago. It was a old Army buddy, and I say buddy lightly here, but old Army buddy that posted about. He's like, cops are only supposed to match force. No, just no. That's not how that is. Ugh. So you have somebody that's violently trying to attack you with a balloon. Oh yeah, it'll be fine. What if that balloon's filled with some sort of chemical that could burn you? That's the thing. They're stopping threats. Period. The man was verbal about his threats. He was verbal about what he was going to do. They are there to stop the threat. They've got to stop the threat. That's it. That's what they're doing. Yes, we would prefer it to be a non-violent, peaceful manner, but that's not how it goes because most criminals aren't really abiding by the law. We know this. We get this. It's been obvious. It's been very clear, specifically over these last 110 or so days, with all of these riots and these looting and these protests that turn bad. We can talk about that one day too. That will come up as far as the protests, the BLM, what happened with George Floyd. We'll talk about Breonna Taylor. There's a lot coming in other podcasts, but I'll get to that eventually. But I wanted to make a point that in the news article that talked about how great Jacob Blake was. At the end of it, they did talk about why what charges he had pending. He had a warrant out for his arrest for something else. Of course, I don't remember specifics, but he did all this, and the left is praising him. The woman he sexually he violated had to then watch basketball players, put his name on their jerseys or their helmets. Like, of course, football players did that. Now you have that woman having to see that, and this is where our country's come to, where the glorification of a violent criminal is more important than the feelings of. And now I'm one of those people that I'm not a big fan about feelings as far as politics, but this is not that. When you do something like that to another human being, you've now warranted their feelings as more important. Because, I'm sorry, if I'm just, like I said, as an example, if I did what Jacob Blake did, if I did that, I know full well, now anyway, I know that woman would be scarred, and I'm probably for life. And that's terrible, and I caused that, you know what I mean? If I did it, I would have been the one that caused that. So, in fact, her feelings now do matter more than mine. She needs to, she has things to say, she's got things to figure out in her life. Now that I did that to her, it's going to change the way she views men and relationships and things like that. That's on me. We would know that. Normally that's something that's talked about in like rape cases and sexual assault cases, and why we don't do that to people, and this, these are reasons. So of course that's completely ignored by the media, by the left. Now they just want to champion Jacob Blake as a good person, and the media is touting it as so. And the media has a big play in this. So when they came out with the Woodward tapes to claiming that he did this, that, the other, of course, it's a great tool to go against Trump, and it's going to come up on a constant basis from now until the election. And that's something to keep in mind as you watch any, we hope, debates or anything else that comes out in the next couple of weeks. But what another thing I noticed too is I worked at a company here up until about March, and it was a factory job. I don't have it anymore. They let a lot of people go due to the virus, and my shift was all completely let go, which fine, bye. It sucks. I hated it, but I'll deal with it. But the weeks leading up to it, because we heard that there was a slowdown in orders, because we create these like the trailer-driven like generators and light fixtures, things like that. Well, anyway, that's what we build there, and the orders for these things were slowly dying off a little bit. Now, election year kind of tends to do that to most factories anyway, due to the market and how it's going to move, depending on who gets elected. Well, what I noticed, right, is they kept telling us, we're not going to get rid of nobody, we're not downsizing, we're not laying off, things like they just kept saying, we're not, you guys are fine, don't worry. And then literally one day we walk in, all right, we're laying off, you got to go. Well, that's really crappy. But at the same time, they did what Trump did. They downplayed the problem that was coming and told us not to worry about it. Because they would have watched us getting new jobs. They would have seen us leaving. And the production would have been lost during the time after they mentioned that up until they fired us. The production would have dropped. They didn't want that, so they downplayed it. That is a really crappy example. Well, that's not a really crappy example. It's a really crappy way to go. It was a good example, though, because that's all that Trump was doing. Now, it didn't end in the same obvious way that that factory job did. Well, I didn't get we didn't all get fired or killed. That's not what happened. But what did happen was he said, there's not a problem, it's not a problem. We don't want people to panic, because people did start panicking. Do you all remember, stupid flies, do you all remember the toilet paper shortage that had everything to do with it? As soon as people heard of a pandemic, they freaked out and went and bought as much toilet paper as possible because one news media outlet said, hey, stock up on toilet paper. It was a basic, hey, just make sure you have toilet paper too. But everybody took it as, we gotta have a lot of toilet paper. So they just grabbed a ton of toilet paper and everybody freaked out because a little bit of information was released. Yes, I think most Americans would have liked all the information at once, and I think therein lies the solution to the problem. The next time something like this happens, hopefully Trump may think, well, maybe I should just release all the information that I can to the public, 100%, as much of it as possible, and give them the opportunity to make decisions and opinions for themselves. We weren't given that chance, no. But with good examples like the toilet paper shortage, we know that the American people are going to freak out. Not everybody, but generally speaking, Americans are going to kind of panic. And he was avoiding it to the point where he wanted to keep the economy up. Now, people say, well, he was doing that for re-election. There's nothing that shows look in March. As soon as this shit hit, the economy crashed anyway. It was going to crash. So that's a terrible excuse. That is just terrible and stupid, might I add. Oh yeah, he was trying to keep the economy up for his freaking re-election. Well, first and foremost, okay, let's just want to throw it out there. At the end of May, we gained 8.5 million jobs instead of losing 2.5 like the experts thought we were going to lose. Bringing it to about an 8.1% unemployment rate, which I laughed at. And I laughed at it because that was a better rate than any year under Obama with no pandemic. And we still have a better economy. The economy's fine. It's fine. It's going to rebound. And not only is it rebounding, it has been rebounding since freaking May. It was dropped off in May a little bit, but spending started coming back up. And then you saw in June, July, and August, just going right back up. It was going to. We all know it was going to. Trump called it. Trump knows what he's doing with an economy. And that is why a lot of us want to vote for him. That is why we still support him. Because he is doing something about this. I just, again, like I'm saying, I'm looking at a lot of this and I just get so confused as to why everybody thinks this was such a big story. It's shitty. Sure, of course, if Trump was here, I'd tell him, that was dumb. Personally, I don't think that was a good move at all. I don't know. I think that a lot of things that are happening, there's a lot of manipulation. And lying has become a normal, or is trying to become a normal. People are trying to normalize lying, misconstruing, miscontextualizing. And I don't like that. I think that is what is going to cause more problems in the future. Now, I've got plenty of other podcasts coming. I want to just so you're aware, okay? I want to talk about BLM. I've had actually some personal experience with the BLM protesters and talking to them, things like that. And I'll share a lot of that. And it's not overly terrible. I side with them in certain ways, and I don't with other things. But generally speaking, the organization, the movement itself is terrible. I don't like it. Um, like it would be like if I started a organization called White Lives Matter, and I only cared about one specific aspect of the white lives. Many people would say that's freaking stupid. You don't care about all the other whites. He's right. I don't, and it's a representation. My title, and I think that Black Lives Matter is a terrible title because they don't care about black lives. Not all black lives. Anyway. Let me restate that. I think that they care about some black lives, sure, but I don't think they care about all. They should probably be more specific because the arguments come back and forth about, well, if you don't support BLM, you must be racist. Oh, I'm racist. Okay, because why? I don't support black lives. Yeah, of course not. Okay, so then why don't Black Lives Matter support black lives? Well, they're only about police brutality. Then I'm not racist. But that's just something they can't grasp. So, we'll talk about BLM. That's a subject coming. Of course, the election. Of course, what I'm seeing as far as the polling between Biden and Trump. The margin is narrowed quite a bit. How we all know, of course, that polling doesn't mean a damn thing. We all watched it in 2016. The experts calling a 98% chance of Hillary to win, and well, and then now it's sort of almost the same things happening across the board. A lot of people are like, well, it's a little different because of this, that, and the other. Not really. And then we're watching the margin just shrink anyway. Trump has gained a lot of traction in places that you wouldn't expect. And there's a lot of people being silent. A lot of it, too, is watching over 4 years of anyone that wears MAGA hats getting verbally and physically assaulted, attacked, berated in public. A lot of people don't want to deal with that. So they're quiet about who they support. They don't want to talk politics. I'm sorry, but a lot of people that are silent in politics right now are voting for Trump. And that's the thing is the news thinks that they're getting somewhere because they see the angrier, louder people, and they see more people on the left than the right. Well, of course, because most on the right are getting quiet. They're just like, no, you go and deal. You deal with your own dumb shit, and I'm gonna go do mine. And we're all voting what we want to vote anyway. And I'm gonna kill these flies, I swear. And so we will be talking about the election, and we will. I want to cover a little bit about some of the RNC and DNC points that came up. Now I'm sure, that's a little bit old news at this point because it's been a few weeks now, but I'll still talk about it because some of those topics still come up. I have a Democrat friend from high school, not a bad guy, but my problem. Oh my God, these flies! I apologize, everybody. My problem is he wants to run. For president in 2024. He claims he doesn't hate Trump. Well, then that's all he ever talks about is Trump and how terrible Trump is, even though, many times it's completely misconstrued. He has no clue what he's talking about. I actually had a lot of respect for him at one point or another, but he doesn't listen to anybody. And I guess what I'm trying to say is there's going to be a lot of content coming over the next few weeks, months. And hopefully I'm doing this all the way up to the election, or at least past the election, so I can talk about that too. But anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Again, if you liked what you heard, tell me. If you hated what you heard, tell me. If you think I need to correct something or improve something, let me know. Just keep in mind I'm slightly broke, so I don't have a... This is it. This is the studio. My basement with some drywall. I might hang up my Trump flag just to do it. But anyway... yeah, subscribe, please. Like and subscribe. Share this with your friends. Talk to them about it. I don't know, something. Just get my name out there. Help me get my name out there. I appreciate the support, absolutely. And you've just been watching Politics with Tony.